not man to woman, but from man to girl. Okay, let's quickly address that. That's upsetting. Now we have men transitioning to youth.
I can't believe I have to explain this concept to Abby, but women call themselves girls, like, all the time. If I say I'm going on a girls' night out, that's not saying I am a child. By the way, Abby doesn't even apply this standard to herself. On her channel, she has, let's have a girl chat. But wait a minute, Abby, you're not a child. How can you say it's a girl chat? There was an Abby Shapiro video where Abby Shapiro decided to come out as transphobic. And Abby Shapiro's funny because she's like Ben Shapiro, but she's not good at making arguments. So, like, she's as annoying as Ben Shapiro, but she's terrible at making arguments. But she has big titties. So, like, you got a lot of pro-cons going around here. All of the rise which she got was from big advertising money from the Daily Wire. And she has, like, 109,000 subscribers on YouTube. All from this year-long period where the Daily Wire was investing hundreds of thousands of dollars advertising, giving her this platform. And now her videos typically get, like, a couple thousand views at most. Like, all she talks about is, like, trad wifery stuff. However, she did make a transphobic video. What was big enough to set Abby Shapiro off in a crusade against the transgenders was Ulta Beauty having Dylan Mulvaney on a podcast. Apparently that's all it takes for Abby Shapiro to become transphobic is a makeup company has a trans woman? What? Let's do it.
Hello, Classic Crew, and welcome to another episode of Classically Abby Reacts.
Yeah, this is Ben Shapiro post-transition. For those that have not seen her before, we support her transition, absolutely.
Classically Abby Reacts, where I react to something on Twitter, on Reddit, on TikTok, and I just share my legitimate thoughts on something that is probably crazy.
She's explaining the very concept of reaction content. That's like the level that like Abby Shapiro's at. We know how reaction content works, Abby.
So today, I want to share my thoughts on a recently viral clip from Ulta's new podcast. Now, if you don't know what Ulta is kind of like the competitor to Sephora, and they were not mixed up in politics, in the political kind of sphere until more recently.
She's trying to say that Ulta Beauty, completely apolitical, until they had a transgender on a podcast episode. That's so crazy. All these corporations absolutely funnel money into political campaigns, but for Abby, Ulta Beauty was completely apolitical until they just had a transgender. I guess the existence of a transgender is political to Abby.
Sephora was canceled by conservatives when they canceled an influencer who was conservative. Actually had that influencer on my channel.
She's now talking about some random Sephora drama. This has nothing to do with Ulta.
But I had been shopping at Ulta happily, enjoying that I still had one store to go to that wasn't this insane. And yet, Ulta knew they couldn't just leave well enough alone. So what they decided to do was on their podcast, The Beauty of ... They had two biological men talking about the beauty of girlhood.
Imagine being so triggered by like a makeup company having a podcast that have trans people on it. That's literally all this is. That's what's causing Abby to freak out. She's like, I was a happy Ulta customer until they made a podcast episode with transgenders? What? Transgenders can't wear makeup?
Now, Dylan Mulvaney, who is a TikTok star at this point, 9 million followers, has been showing his transition from not man to woman, but from man to girl. Okay, let's quickly address that. That's upsetting that we are not having men transition to being full-blown women. Now, that in and of itself is insane, but now we have men transitioning to youth.
I can't believe I have to explain this concept to Abby, but women call themselves girls, like, all the time. Like, girls' night out. If I say I'm going on a girls' night out, that's not saying I am a child. By the way, Abby doesn't even apply this standard to herself. On her channel, she has, let's have a girl chat. But wait a minute, Abby, you're not a child. How can you say it's a girl chat? The classic girls guide. Abby, this better be the classic woman's guide. You're not a child, Abby. She calls herself a girl, and yet she's trying to be outraged when a transgender person does something that she herself does.
Which is scary from a pedophilic perspective.
Abby, when you say let's have a girl chat, is that scary from a pedophilic perspective? If this is scary from a pedophilic perspective, then let's have a girl chat on dating would be scary from a pedophilic perspective. You just owned yourself.
Call themselves girls and then allowing those people to then hang out with children? Is that the next step? Is that the next logical step?
You call yourself a girl, so is it okay for you to exist around children? Like, this entire argument can be levied against her completely identically, simply because she calls herself a girl on her own platform.
But getting that out of the way, we're talking about the beauty of girlhood with two biological men.
Even if you grant their transphobia, is it wrong if somebody says, I think that girls are beautiful? Is that wrong? Honestly, if someone's like, I think that girls are beautiful, I love women, I'm like, heck yeah, I love women too. Even if you grant their transphobia, it's not even a salient criticism. And their transphobia is not even worth granting.
Girl. And he prances around in this appropriation of femininity, which is really offensive.
If you want to say that performativity of gender is appropriation, even cis women would be appropriating this concept of femininity. There's nothing like natural about this idea of femininity that's been sold to them. Like, this is something that's been socially manufactured and manufactured by companies as an idea to sell you. That criticism also applies to cis women even.
So we're gonna watch this clip today from Ulta's podcast where Dylan talks about the beauty of girlhood.
Now I know I can find love. I know I can still be a performer. I know that I can have a family. I want to be a mom one day. And I absolutely can. And that's why the narrative still has a long way to go, because when I was grieving boy Dylan, I didn't know those things were even accessible to me.
As a mom, as a woman, aren't we all just exhausted of men telling us how to be women?
Wait, what? How did Dylan tell somebody how to be a woman? Dylan didn't even do that. Play the clip again.
Now I know I can find love.
I can find love. That's an I statement.
I know I can still be a performer.
I can still be a performer is an I statement.
I know that I can have a family. I want to be a
I statement.
mom one day. And I absolutely can. And that's why the narrative still has a long way to go, because when I was grieving boy Dylan, I didn't know those things were even accessible to me.
Every single statement that Dylan made was an I statement, as in, I know I can do this. I know I can be this. And Abby's trying to say that Dylan is making a statement about how women should be. If I say, I want to be a firefighter, am I saying all women should be firefighters? That doesn't make sense at all. By no logic does that make any sense. And that is the logical leap that Abby's doing here.
Exhausted of men telling us how to be women. Like, that they can do it better than we can.
Dylan didn't even say that. Abby's acting like Dylan was over here like, you know, I can be a better mom than you sissies. That's not what she said. She just said, I can be a mom. That's it. Why do you have to be so triggered by somebody saying, I can do X? Why does that bother you?
That they can talk on the beauty of womanhood.
When did she even talk about the beauty of womanhood in that clip?
Better than actual women.
Did she say that her view of womanhood is better than the view of womanhood of like a cis woman? Or did she just say, I can be a mom? This is the biggest stretch I have ever seen. Dylan say, I can be a mom. And then Abby hears, you all have to be transgender to be a mom, and cisgender moms are not as good as transgender moms. Are we playing a game of telephone? Because that is not even remotely close to what Dylan said.
That a man is saying he can be a mother. He absolutely can. He cannot. He cannot. And it's disgusting that people even entertain that idea. Women are uniquely fit for that role. It is our God-given right, biological right. It is what we are made for.
This argument that Abby is making is suggesting that adoptive mothers are not real mothers. The only argument she can make which would exclude Dylan from motherhood, that motherhood is a biological right, which would exclude adoptive mothers.
It is what we are made for. Yes, there are women who struggle with infertility, but the fact that they even struggle with that infertility is part of womanhood. Like, the fact that there are women who struggle to conceive is not an argument against the fact that women are mothers.
I would agree, infertility does not negate that women can be mothers, but it also means that you can't say that you have to be a biological female who biologically births their kids is the only valid way to be a mother. It shows that you can't make this universal claim about motherhood being a biological experience because you just acknowledged that there are exceptions to that universality, exceptions that are worth acknowledging, like the adoptive mother.
It's actually an argument for it, that they struggle to become mothers because they are struggling with the infertility that is preventing them from it.
Interesting how she says the infertility is preventing them from becoming mothers. Like, if infertility prevents you from becoming a mother, then that would mean that somebody who is infertile who adopts isn't a mother. This framing absolutely frames adoptive mothers as not real mothers.
I recently had someone ask me if my channel was political, and I said, it depends what you consider political.
Cop out. Like, she talks about conservative living tradwifery. That's absolutely political.
Do you consider it political to talk about obvious things like femininity is for women?
That's a really interesting claim. What's wrong if, like, a man is feminine? Or, like, what's wrong if, like, a woman isn't feminine?
Do you consider those things political, or do you consider them obvious?
That's very political. That is a very regressive and restrictive understanding of gender and gender roles. Also, this idea that, like, femininity is for women absolutely shows that Abby recognizes a difference between social aspects of gender and biological sex, because she had to decouple those in order to make that claim.
If you consider it controversial that women are women and men are men, and that men cannot become women just because they take hormonal treatment.
If you think that transgenders are real, then yeah, I'm political. So what?
Content like this is ridiculous. It's not acceptable.
She says that content like this is not acceptable. The clip where Dylan was like, I can do all these things that I was afraid that I wasn't going to be able to do. But it turns out I'm strong and powerful and I can do things. That's unacceptable to Abby.
Say that we live in a patriarchy. Well, what is more patriarchal than men becoming women and talking on women like experts?
First off, Dylan didn't do that. And actually, the existence of trans women inherently opposes patriarchy. If somebody would give up a patriarchal status in order to live a life which is more fulfilling to them, which is more authentic to them, that actually opposes patriarchy. And trans women are astoundingly allies in feminist fights against patriarchy.
The idea of a man prancing around in the trappings of femininity as if that makes him a girl.
People on the left don't think that. We on the left, we love our femboys. Our femboys can wear the dresses, the skirts, the thigh highs they want, and they're still men. They are our kings. We recognize them as men, as kings. So how can the left think that wearing a dress makes someone a woman? When we support our femboy kings.
So that is my reaction to that video. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.
She wants us to leave a comment. I said, hi, Abby. I think that this video was very bad. Dylan was, like, not speaking for all women, nor did she ever say women should be like this. She was just making I statements, which are a good way to express your feelings about yourself, and specifically do not refer to other people. So notice the I statement here. Hope you recognize how she is talking about herself, and is not telling you any way women have to be. Don't be triggered by a makeup company having trans people on their podcast. Just let them be. It's really not a big deal. Honestly, I just don't care who a makeup company has to talk about makeup. Anyone can wear makeup, and it's sexist to say otherwise. Oh yeah, and the girl part was really funny, where she was like, I can't believe Dylan Mulvaney is calling herself a girl, but don't you dare think about Classically Abby's Girl Chat, or The Classic Girl's Guide, or Classic Girl Summer. She called it pedophilic. Hey, Abby, you say that it's sexual and pedophilic to call a woman a girl, yet you have a 50-part series titled The Classic Girl's Guide. Curious.